Jerome had been working as a cleaner in the high-rise headquarters of CrownTech for over 10 years. Most employees barely noticed him, just the quiet man in a gray uniform, pushing a mop and wearing headphones that were never plugged in. But Jerome noticed everything. Early one morning, while cleaning the CEO's office, he overheard a low conversation between Mr. Grant, the Billionaire CEO, and his trusted childhood friend and CFO Derek. They were speaking casually, but Jerome caught a few words that chilled him. Offshore, quiet transfer, no paper trail. Something didn't sit right. Later that day, Jerome went to the break room, pulled out a pen, and scribbled a note on an old receipt. "Sir, I don't want to overstep, but I believe something dangerous is happening with your friend. Please be cautious." He placed the note under Mr. Grant's keyboard and walked away, heart pounding. The next morning, the note was still there, unread, untouched. Mr. Grant had been too busy preparing for a major investor pitch to notice. Meanwhile, Derek was unusually cheerful, shaking hands and making calls with a confidence that seemed unnatural. Jerome continued his work, keeping his head down, but his eyes open. That afternoon, he saw Derek slip a folder marked confidential into his briefcase. It wasn't labeled. But Jerome had cleaned that office long enough to know it wasn't Derek's to take. Still, no one asked him anything. No one ever did. Jerome tried to warn someone in security, but they politely brushed him off. After all, he was just a cleaner. But deep down, Jerome knew something terrible was coming. And while he may not wear a suit or sit in a corner office, he could see the cracks forming before anyone else dared to look. The next morning, the atmosphere inside Crown months passed, and CrownTech was no longer the same company it once was. The walls were the same, the desks untouched, but the energy had shifted. Meetings now included voices from every level, not just the top floor. Ethics, once a buzzword, had become the foundation of decision-making. But the most surprising transformation came from Mr. Grant himself. Once a distant CEO, he now walked the office regularly, stopping to talk to interns, assistants, even the janitorial staff, especially Jerome. One morning, Mr. Grant asked Jerome to meet him privately. As they sat overlooking the city skyline, Mr. Grant said, "You saved more than the company. You saved me from myself. I saw ambition as a ladder, not a mirror. You helped me see differently." He then handed Jerome an envelope. Inside was an offer of a lifetime scholarship for Jerome's daughter, a full health plan for his family, and a permanent role as senior advisor to the Integrity Board. Jerome's eyes filled with emotion. "I didn't do this for reward," he said softly. "I just couldn't stay quiet when something was wrong." Mr. Grant smiled. "That's exactly why you deserve everything in this envelope." A year later, at the company's anniversary gala, Mr. Grant stood on stage and told the full story, not hiding the shame but honoring the lesson. He invited Jerome up, introducing him as the soul of CrownTech. The crowd rose in applause. Cameras flashed, but Jerome simply waved and said, "I just wanted to do what was right." The room fell silent, not because of drama, but because truth carries a weight silence understands. And from that day forward, whenever anyone asked how CrownTech rebuilt its reputation, the answer was always the same, because someone saw the truth and dared to speak it. Tech felt strangely heavy. Usual buzz of confidence had shifted into tension. Jerome arrived early as always, and quietly noticed the small details others missed. The hurried steps of the legal team, the unusually long closed door, meeting in the finance wing, and the CEO's assistant making discreet phone calls behind her desk. Still, no one connected the dots. Mr. Grant, confident and sharp, finally noticed the folded note left on his desk the day before. He read it twice, his expression slowly tightening. He looked around the office, then crumpled the paper and slipped it into his pocket. That afternoon, during a lunch meeting, Mr. Grant pulled Derek aside. "You've been with me since the garage days," he said, "so tell me honestly, is there anything I should know before the audit?" Derek laughed it off. "Nothing you haven't already approved," he replied smoothly. But Jerome watched from across the hallway and saw the flicker of unease across Derek's face. That night, Mr. Grant stayed late, digging through files Jerome had dusted 100 times. Hidden behind investment reports, he found encrypted records. He hadn't authorized offshore transfers, ghost accounts, money trails, vanishing into shell companies. His heart dropped. Jerome's note hadn't been a warning. It was a lifeline. The next day, Mr. Grant asked to see the cleaner. Jerome was stunned. No one had ever called him by name in the boardroom. When they met, Mr. Grant looked him in the eye. "You saw this coming, didn't you?" Jerome nodded. "I see more than people think." Mr. Grant took a deep breath. "I need your eyes now more than ever." And just like that, the man no one noticed became the quiet key to exposing a storm. No one was ready for that evening. Mr. Grant didn't go home. He sat in his office, replaying every conversation, every signature, every moment where Derek had insisted everything was under control. A stone deeper than numbers it came from someone he trusted like family. Meanwhile, Jerome stayed behind too, quietly mopping the lower floor, but ready if needed. Just after 9 p.m., Mr. Grant asked him to join. This time, they weren't bosses and cleaners. They were two men, one with power and one with perspective. Jerome pulled out a small USB and said, "I copied some of the discarded drafts I found while cleaning your partner's office. I wasn't snooping, I just knew something felt wrong." Mr. Grant plugged it in, and line by line, the truth unfolded. Derek had been siphoning money using ghost vendors, padding expenses, and manipulating acquisition reports. Worse, some transactions were timed with major investments, meaning shareholders were unknowingly funding his private empire. Mr. Grant stood frozen, but Jerome placed a hand on his shoulder. "You can still fix this, but not if you protect him." Mr. Grant knew what that meant. Loyalty had to end where integrity began. The next morning, Mr. Grant walked into the weekly executive meeting with Jerome following behind. The staff murmured, confused. Mr. Grant said nothing at first. He simply handed printed copies of the documents to every board member. Derek's face went pale. "What is this?" Mr. Grant replied firmly, "Proof, and a confession waiting to happen." Room was silent, except for the shuffle of papers and the quiet strength of the man in a janitor's uniform. Standing beside the CEO, news of the scandal hit the company like a shockwave. Derek was suspended pending investigation, and the media buzzed with speculation. Yet through the chaos, Mr. Grant remained composed. He called for an internal audit, a legal team, and something CrownTech had never seen before: transparency. Employees whispered about the janitor, who now walked the halls not as a cleaner, but as the man who saw the truth when no one else did. Some mocked it, others admired it. But Jerome didn't care about attention. He only cared that someone finally listened. One afternoon, HR offered Jerome a chance to transfer, perhaps a desk job, something that fit his new status. He politely declined. "I'm not here to climb ladders. I'm here to keep things clean in every sense." Mr. Grant, however, had other plans. He invited Jerome to join a new internal ethics committee, a watchdog team meant to monitor all financial and operational activity, ensuring what happened with Derek never happened again. Jerome accepted on one condition: no title, no photo ops, just access and the truth. Meanwhile, Mr. Grant gave a press conference. Cameras flashed as he stood behind the podium, flanked not by lawyers, but by employees, and Jerome. "We've made mistakes," he admitted, "but we've also had a reminder. Integrity doesn't wear a suit." Jerome didn't speak, but his presence said enough. Behind the scenes, Mr. Grant launched reforms, rebuilding the culture from the inside out. Trust, once broken, was slowly being restored. Jerome returned to his usual rounds, mop in hand, eyes always watching. But now, even the executives greeted him with respect. Not because he saved the company, but because he reminded them what it meant to stand for something. The story was still far from over.